Alright, budget magic time. Ulamog Exile. Made a couple slight changes. We added an extra Ulamog, because I felt like we weren't drawing Ulamog as consistently as like. Added some Erishan Clerics to the sideboard. Well, we are getting all the Ulamogs today. So a couple little things like that, but nothing too major. Swamp. Well, I guess we just read the bones here. If it gets countered, there's not much we can do about it. Looks like it might get countered. Slumgar Scorn. No reveal. Alright. Well, it's kind of a bummer, but whatever. Looks like Esper Dragons we're up against. Silk Wrap isn't very good against Esper Dragons. Can basically hit Jace. But our opponent's stuck on lands, which is good. Play Scoured Barrens here. And if we just ramp up to 10 mana and start casting Ulamogs, they're going to have a hard time beating that. I wish we were not drawing all these Silk Wraps, though. That I will admit. Opponent's to the point of discarding. Alright, we're up to 7 mana. 3 more mana one way or another, and we are in Ulamog territory. Opponent's going to dig for some lands, I guess. Yep. Our opponent's also going to want to try to cast something here, I think, so they don't have to discard again. Might be Dragonlord Ojutai. Jace, well that's good. Finally got a target for these a million Silk Wraps. Yeah, I think we just Silk Wrap here. If it gets countered, we can play the second one. Yep, our opponent counters it, so we'll play the second Silk Wrap, get rid of that Jace. And pass the turn. I think we're still in pretty good shape. Wouldn't mind a Blight Herder would be sweet. Anything to get us the mana necessary for Ulamog. Well, now we can read the bones. What do we find? A Stasis Snare and a Swamp. I don't think we need Stasis Snare, but we will keep the Swamp. And a Caves of Quelos. Alright, so we have instant speed ways to pressure Dragonlord Ojutai the next couple turns. And we are up to 8 lands, so we're 1 away from being able to cast our Ulamog. So we'll wait till this is tapped. Cast an Utter End. If our opponent can counter it, fine. Nope. Excellent. Well, that worked out perfectly. So our opponent have another one. Another Dragonlord Ojutai. Come on, land. Well, read the bones. We will read the bones here. Stasis Snare. Do we want Stasis Snare this time? I think we'll put Stasis Snare to the bottom and keep the Swamp. And an Oblivion Sower. Do we want an Oblivion Sower? I think we gotta wait and go with Grip of Desolation on Ojutai. If our opponent counters it, then that leaves our opponent open to get hit by Ulamog on Ojutai. Our opponent didn't even attack. So they likely do not have a counterspell. Another Grip of Desolation. Well, now I guess we go with Oblivion Sower. Because we can Oblivion Sower, get these lands, and then we can still Grip of Desolation if we need to. Because we get the trigger for the lands no matter what. Alright, they counter it, draw a card. That's fine. We get all the lands, exile a dragon, which isn't bad. So we gain a life, up to 18, have a couple fetches we can crack. And now we'll just pass the turn for now. With the plan being to Grip of Desolation if our opponent attacks. And if it works, great. If not, we get him with Ulamog. So Flooded Strand, cracks for a Plains, Polluted Delta for a Swamp, Grip of Desolation, Ojutai, and the single planes our opponent has. If it gets countered, that's fine. Our opponent gets to draw a card, which is annoying, but nope, it just works. Well, that was great. Opponent has nothing. Well, I guess it is Big Daddy Ulamog time. 10 mana, Ulamog. Triggers. We will hit 2 of these lands. Is our opponent going to counter it? Alright. Foul Tongue Invocation takes down Ulamog. Sure. This is where having a extra Ulamog really comes in handy. Stasis Snare. Well, I guess we're going with the instant replay. Ulamog, exile 2 lands. Our next Oblivion Sower is going to be insane. Opponent is probably going to do the same thing. Oh, look at this board. Another Foul Tongue Invocation, sure. Now the question is, how does our opponent beat us? They drew a land, which is good, if they have anything left in their deck. Caves of Koilos. So we have all of our Blight Herders. We have 3 Oblivion Sowers and 1 Ulamog left. And we are actually ahead in cards if this becomes a game where we play through our entire decks. Slumgar Drifting Death is already exiled. So unless they're playing more than one of those, we got that covered. Our opponent apparently does have some lands left to fetch. So the next Oblivion Sower will hit 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 lands. Well, there's Blight Herder. So we will Blight Herder. And we will put what? Not lands. I don't think they have any way of getting back creatures. So we can probably feel safe putting Dragonlords into the graveyard. Alright, our opponent counters it, which is fine. Because we still get this trigger. Still get to put 2 Dragonlords in the graveyard and get the Scions. So we do have a clock. And we still have a ton of mana. And our opponent is pretty light on threats. We are pretty close to just exiling everything. If they ever play a creature, we get to Grip of Desolation. It's probably not worth doing right now, just to hit a land and hit one of our creatures. Opponent's discarding. There's Oblivion Sower. Oh, the greatest Oblivion Sower of all time. Oh, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lands. Oh, look at all these lands. We gain 3 life. Oh, this is so sweet. Now we'll attack with everything. How many lands do we have in play? Our opponent goes with complete disregard, so I think since they're doing that, we're going to go ahead and exile that swamp. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, we did it. We did it. Alright, sideboarding. I like Infinite Obliteration. Also like Duress. I don't like Silk Wrap in general. Does get Jace, but can probably cut Titan's Presence, and Hostilities is a fine out to some things that are hard to deal with. And a couple Wasteland Stranglers just aren't that exciting. We just want to go over the top, is the plan. Well, this is kind of the hand we had last time, and it kind of worked. We just kind of eventually played Ulamogs, and our opponent couldn't beat Ulamogs. Other ends are fine-ish. They can catch a Dragonlord if we play him at the right time. We did add in more Grip of Desolation too, which was a really key change. Having more ways to hit lands is pretty sweet. Well, I guess we will just duress, see what's going on over there. If our opponent wants to counter, that's fine. We traded duress for a counter. Yep, reveals Slumguard Drifting Death, which is a hard one to deal with. We're going to want to draw some lands. Other end can't hit lands. Can hit Ojutai's though. There's a land. So we're going to play the Ojutai subgame. We know one of our opponent's cards is a Slumguard Drifting Death, so they have 2 unknowns. Other end, success or fail? Success. Blight Herder. Blight Herder would be better if we had more stuff exiled. I guess we run it out there anyway, just so we have a threat. Because we know our opponent's going to play a Slumgar, and then the Eldrazi Scion tokens don't really do anything anyway. So we might as well put a threat on the battlefield. Oh, Dragonlord. Well, that's fine. Oh, he has all the Slumgars. Well, that's acceptable, because now we can just utter end that. Would have been nice to be able to Grip of Desolation, but whatever. Now we just want to get that Oblivion Sower down, get some lands, go from there. Well, Infinite Obliteration. And we are going to take Slumguard Drifting Death since we know what's in our opponent's hand. So they have a Dig Through Time and a Ojutai's Command left in their deck. 3 Dragonlord Ojutais, 1 Dragonlord Slumgar, 1 Ugin, and some Jaces, and a bunch of counters. A little bit of removal. So we'll take the 2 Slumgars. Our opponent still can't dig through time, which is good. Well, we get to read the bones. Better than nothing. You've been stuck on lands for a while. Well, that works. Our opponent counters it, but now we get to Silk Wrap a land, which is actually another land in exile for if we ever get to cast this Oblivion Sower. Oh, the synergy of this deck. Ooh. Our opponent drew their 1 Infinite Obliteration. That's bad news. Good news is they are down a lot of Dragonlords. That was quite the draw for our opponent. Well, we just want to land for this Oblivion Sower, which we got. Oblivion Sower hits the top 4. We'll take all the lands. Ship the turn. So we're in decent shape, even though Dig Through Time is annoying. But we have a lot of removal for whatever our opponent has. And while we don't have any Ulamogs left, we still have plenty of Oblivion Sowers and Blight Herders. So that's going to be our way of winning the game. Either that or playing through our entire library. I guess we will crack this Polluted Delta, get another land out of our deck. Stasis Snare. Well, that'll be good if our opponent ever draws a threat. Now our opponent's going to dig through time. What are we even afraid of? Not much. I guess Ugin is sort of bad, but Ugin doesn't even interact that well with Eldrazi because they're colorless. Play the land, gain a life, keep attacking. Our opponent really didn't find an answer, or they're just not playing it. They must have hit another dig, I guess. Dragonlord's prerogative, that makes sense. Well, they're kind of low on cards. They're going to have to... They're going to have to figure out something. Foul Tongue Invocation takes down Oblivion Sower. We draw another one. Get to exile a few more cards. Might get countered. Oh, jeez. Do we hit solid lands? That was sweet. All lands. Man, Oblivion Sower is way better than I ever imagined. Card is insane. Look at how many lands we have. Hit another Haven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 lands. So our opponent's going to dig again. Thing is, our opponent is eventually going to have to find a way of winning the game. And that might be challenging. I mean, they're way lower on cards than us. So we might be able to win this even Jace, sure. Well, we're going to crack these Polluted Deltas. We have a few swamps left, so we can thin those out of our deck. 3. Still got a lot of plains left. Do we want a Grip of Desolation? We can. Probably get countered, but we might as well try. Go after the Jace and the plains. Gets dispelled. Well, let's attack with Oblivion Sower. See what happens. Now we can Stasis Snare to get rid of Jace. Pass the turn. That Oblivion Sower is kind of getting there. So our opponent have their Ugin. That's the card I'm assuming they'd like to draw into. Crux gets rid of our Oblivion Sower. There's still a question of how they're going to win this game, though. I guess their best out is Ugin. And us not drawing anything. Or else they risk losing just by us playing through our entire decks. Another Stasis Snare can take care of a creature in the future. Man, if we had our... Opponent's going to Utter End to get back Jace. And then we are just going to Stasis Snare again to get rid of Jace. Our opponent's going to negate the Stasis Snare. Alright, so our opponent is actually going to flip a Jace. But they're pretty low on cards. So maybe their plan is just to pump up Jace a bunch of times and hope they can win that way? Nope. They are going to dig through time. And just hope that we... Oh, Infinite Obliteration, okay. Takes Oblivion Sower, I guess. Yep, takes our last 2 Oblivion Sowers. Well, the question's going to be is can they kill us? Dig through time. So they're down to 16 cards. We know they have a single Ugin. We have a couple other ends left that get rid of Jace and Ugin. Shambling Vents, okay. I guess that's a 9-turn clock. We also have a bunch of Read the Bones left. God. I always feel like we draw a lot of lands. Maybe we're not. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That is kind of a lot. Is our opponent going to get frisky with their Shambling Vents? Oh, they found their Ugin. Alright, well we are going to need to draw an answer and hope our opponent does not have a counter. Or more lands. $14 lands is a lot in half of your deck. So you can ultimate Ugin, but it doesn't actually do anything except put them closer to being dead. What do they have? An Ojutai. Well, Ojutai dies to end hostilities. And they have a counter. They have a negate. Alright, we'll play Caves of Koilos, ship the turn. Pumps up Jace. Deals damage with Ugin. Well, we will try to Stasis Snare. And our opponent has Slumgar Scorn. Alright, that does it. Ugh. Our opponent with the infinite obliteration. They only have one. That was a little annoying. Alright, let's try it again. I feel like that's pretty bad. Guess we gotta ship that one. Ugh. That's also pretty bad. Guess we'll keep Blight Herder. Not a fan of this hand at all. We might lose because of it. Alright. I think this is one of our worst matchups just because, well, that was a good draw. Because our opponent doesn't have that many things to exile to fuel our... Do we keep Ulamog? I think we gotta bottom Ulamog for now. We will take Infinite Obliteration and our one Wasteland Strangler. Well, it could be good eventually if it can hit a Jace or something. Alright, our opponent's gonna Infinite Obliteration. Get rid of our Ulamogs. Pretty annoying. But then we get to hit them back and get rid of their Dragonlord Ojutais. I think we can fight through their Jaces, hopefully. They have, man, that one card. They have one card that matters. Well, I'm glad we put Ulamog to the bottom. Good news is we get to Infinite Obliteration them back. Take... Do we want Jace? It's a tough choice, actually. I think we take Dragonlord Ojutai. And they had one in their hand. They have a Jace, a Dig Through Time, and we get rid of Ojutai, 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 Ojutai. Alright, that's not bad. That means if they just... Oh my god, I didn't play a land. That was a pretty major mistake. Big mistake. There's the Jace. That must mean they drew a counter. It's the only thing that really makes sense. Because we can Wasteland Strangler. They did draw a counter. Well, they have a dig, a Dragonlord's prerogative, and maybe a land. The good news is we get to start Grip of Desolationing. Yeah, I'm going to loot with Jace. If they loot into a counter, that would be incredibly painful. Really? Oh, they're just going to Dragonlord's prerogative. That's fine. We can deal with that. We put him down a land, get rid of the Jace. And next turn, we can start casting. So we know they have Dig, and that's all we know about. The scary part about Jace is that it lets our opponent flashback. Oh, there's another one. What are the odds that they still don't have a counter? Now let's go Oblivion Sower. We will take all the lands. Now our opponent can flip the Jace and use that to flashback Infinite Obliteration to take Oblivion Sower, which is bad. I will admit that is bad. But it doesn't necessarily lose us the game. And they're just going to go with Crux of Fate instead. Okay. That's actually fine. Because now we get to Oblivion Sower again. We're going to crack that, get a Plains out. Oblivion Sower. Did our opponent did draw a counter this time? Slumguard Scorn, revealing Slumguard Drifting Death. Gain a life. So do we want to just Blight Herder? We can Blight Herder, or we can attack Jace with Shambling Vent. I think we'll Blight Herder. Blight Herder. We'll put 2 of the Dragonlord Ojutais in the graveyard. Pass the turn. At least we empty the creatures out of our hand in case they flash back that Infinite Obliteration. Guess you can flash back a Wrath, maybe? There's Slumgar the Drifting Death. Pumps it up, targeting Blight Herder. Well, we're going to crack Pluto Delta, get another swamp out of our deck. Another Stasis Snare isn't great. Well, I guess we send everything at Jace. Blocks our Blight Herder. We hit Jace. And then I guess we'll just pass the turn. Opponent's going to dig through time. Well, in response, let's kill a token and kill a land. Our opponent had to spell. Sure. It's going to flash back something. What was targeted? Crux. Alright, Crux to clear the board. That's fine. No, oh, he's not going to attack. Okay. Well, Caves of Koilos wasn't a great draw. Pumps up the Jace. It's another dig. Is our opponent out of digs yet? Apparently not. Getting to dig every turn is pretty annoying. Well, let's read the bones. Opponent has a negate. Opponent does have a lot of counterspells. Oh, they draw their Ugin? There's the Ugin. Alright, we're going to want that Utter End pretty soon here. Not what we wanted. Well, I think this was a rough matchup. Also think we've ran pretty bad. Didn't draw many duresses. Didn't draw many Utter Ends. Just not drawing many... and drawing endless lands when our opponent is drawing dig through times and such. So that's pretty frustrating to just run poorly. But that's how Magic goes. I mean, if your opponent is drawing lands or spells constantly and you're drawing lands, you're going to lose. It's the variance of the game. And I mean, their deck is built with more draw spells, which helps. But not finding any of the cards we need is pretty frustrating. So it looks like we are going to lose in a super long battle to Esper Dragons. Very close match, actually. And another Stasis Snare. Alright. Alright. Well, it was a close one. We'll be back with another.